about the 1-3 profile here. It's the investigator and the martyr. The martyr isn't exactly the most amazing term to use. I'm pretty sure Karen Curry Parker says it is like the experimenter or something like that. That's a little bit more empowering, but it's, whatever makes you feel empowered by this, because we want to make sure that you take away from this video, or I want to make sure you take away that, your mistakes really are meant to help you. And so being a martyr is not exactly the most empowering word to use. Anyways, so 1-3 profiles is something is very near and dear to my heart. I have my 3 closest friends are actually 1-3 profiles. I love the way that they go about life. I've seen firsthand how they kind of think, and I'll use some of those examples in this video as well. So if you are a 1-3 profile, of course you want to follow your strategy and authority with all things regarding what I'm going to say. Those 2 things are going to come first, and they're going to be very important with kind of navigating your profile. However, I do think profiles are a very powerful aspect of the chart. As many of you guys probably know about me, I'm a huge fan of the profiles. Learning I was a 5-1 profile really impacted me in a huge way, and I wanted to investigate and make videos about how to empower people with that profile, and I want to do the same for all the other profiles as well. So the 1-3 profile is all about self-discovery, because it's going to be all in the lower triagram. As we know, it's 1 through 6 in the I Ching. So the first 3 lines are going to be in the lower triagram, and the third line, or the 4, 5, and 6 are going to be in the upper triagram, more focused on other, where the lower is going to be focused on self. Of course, we have the first line, which is going to be the investigator. As you can see, that's going to be the foundation of life, just like it is in the I Ching. It's the foundation there. It's all about taking in knowledge, however you take in your knowledge. I find a lot of 1-3s are going to take in knowledge from many different aspects. It doesn't have to just be one thing. It doesn't have to just be math or research or videos or whatever way that you take in knowledge. It can be all of those things. It can be all of the above. It's just a matter of what you take in. That's going to be a lot of your foundation. So foundation building is very important to the line 1s. I have a line 1 in my profile as a 5-1, but I have it in the unconscious aspect. So what differs here is that when I'm around a 1-3, I can really tell that they're in their line 1 a lot, because it shows more. It's the part that we see. So the first line is going to be the conscious aspect. It's going to be what other people see in you. So when they're looking at the line 1, they're often seeing the investigation. So when they talk about the investigation that they made, when they talk about, when they're trying to explain things, often they can just talk about how they came to that conclusion, what data went into it, what research went into that. And it's very important that you understand that about a 1-3 profile, because without that, often we can lose patience and kind of want them to jump to the conclusion. But the thing is the investigation is everything for them. To be able to share that to someone else is part of their process, and it's part of how you can respect a 1-3 profile is really just allowing them to get to that conclusion and allowing them to speak the investigator part. Because not only is it inspiring if you have a 1 part in your chart, I know when I talk to 1-3 profiles, my unconscious part is like, this is really helpful. And then when I get to the conclusion of what they're talking about, I really can take it in, because my unconscious 1 line is really taking and soaking in all that 1 line talk that they're explaining at the beginning. Even if you don't have a 1 in your line or in your profile, though, I think when you talk to a 1-3, it's very important to let them navigate that and to talk about the investigation that it took them to get there. And then moving on to the 3, the martyr or the experimenter. This is a huge part of the video I do want to spend time on, is this line 3. 1, I think that it can get kind of a bad rep in friendships and relationships. And 2, I think that it can be really hard when you find out your 1-3 profile and not understand what the line 3 really means and how to empower that aspect of yourself. I find people either get into the situation where they investigate so much, but they don't want to share, they don't want to make a mistake, so they hold all this stuff in, and all this energy builds up and builds up and builds up, and eventually they explode, and they don't even know what they're talking about because they've kept all this inside. Or 2, they are so into just jumping from one thing to another that they don't learn the foundation of what they need, and so they forget the line 1. So I noticed that 1-3s, they often feel unbalanced in either the 3 or the 1. They're either focused way too much about the experiment and not about the takeaway that they take from that, about what works for them and what doesn't. Or I noticed that they are 2 in the line 1 and they're investigating, but they're not able to share because they're so afraid of making those mistakes. I can understand how if you are 1-3 and you've learned about what makes you who you are in your profile, how that can be really intimidating, because you certainly don't want to hurt others, and you certainly don't want to I can see how people go into kind of that state of like, oh my gosh, I need to investigate everything before I make any decisions. But what you have to understand is that the 3 is just as important, even though it's unconscious. So it's going to be more unconscious in your profile as well, making it harder for maybe you to see. It can sometimes be easier for the people around you to see the unconscious part of yourself more than you can see it yourself. So I always recommend people like ask their family members or their really close friends, like if they see that part of themselves. A great silly example that I can use here is that I was at my friend's house, and he was researching how to make a steak, right? And he was just like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. And he was like researching really hard, using that line 1 or whatever. And then he goes to make the steak, and he almost blew up the house like twice. Like literally fire is like exploding up to like here, and like the cabinets are almost on fire. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm just sitting there like laughing so hard, because I'm thinking to myself, no matter how much this person's researching, they're still gonna make those mistakes. And the mistakes often, I hate using the word mistake in general, because I think it can be less empowering, and people can think like, well, he didn't make a mistake, or like, now he's going to be afraid to do that stuff again. But that's not it at all. The mistake aspect of being a 1-3, it's like you've never made a mistake in your life. Those mistakes are honestly really important, because next time that person makes a mistake, he's probably not going to make those same mistakes, right? He's probably not going to do that again. And if he does, he's really going to learn his lesson, and the world's going to be like, all right, time to learn your lesson. But it's funny whenever you're around a 1-3, because you can tell if they're able to take that in, like what happened, and like learn from it or not as well. And it goes without saying, but in relationships and in friendships, that is the same thing. I think sometimes, I will talk specifically about relationships in 1-3. I think sometimes they might feel like there's no room for mistakes. Oftentimes in relationships in general nowadays, we can be very judgmental of people, not allow them to have the process that they need to learn from, to be able to change, to be able to adapt and be accepted for who they are in this day and not in who they were. I think 1-3s feel a lot of that. I think 1-3s do want to be able to grow with people, and I think 1-3 lines really want someone who's going to be able to see all the progress that they've made, even within the year, see the progress and see the journey that they've been on, especially if they're on that self-discovery journey, which I said was so important for the 1-3. Because the more that they build up those foundations, the more that they build up who they are and what they want out of life, the easier it is and the smaller the mistakes tend to get. So if you've kind of figured that out and navigated who you are, and you've worked with that, and you decide that you really want to be with someone, well, it's all about taking things slow, taking things, at a pace where you're allowed to make mistakes, but you don't feel like you jumped into something and then regret it the next day. I have heard that, people who have the 1-3 profile can feel like they are in love at first sight. I don't necessarily know how true this is, but I do, because I feel like the friends I have actually tend to go the opposite way, where they tend to be very slow in the dating process. They tend to not want to be on dating apps, anything like that, because they feel like it just doesn't allow for the kind of energy that they are. But I will say that that is probably the right track, is that if you are 1-3, to stay away from that kind of love at first sight thing, because you're not going to be able to really grow. You're not going to be able to really navigate what works for you in that relationship and what doesn't. This is very important, because when you're looking for a partner, you do need someone that is very patient and understanding that you need to kind of go on uncharted territory, then go back into the foundation, then kind of go out again, and kind of navigate things and have the openness to make mistakes or to say things the wrong way and not be taken for just exactly the way that someone says it. Personally, I don't like when someone does this to me either. I think this is a rule of thumb that we should use in general for everybody, but I do notice that the 1-3 profiles tend to remind me the importance and significance of letting someone speak and not taking what they say just for what it is, but allowing action to follow that, and allowing them to have time to kind of like self-reflect and figure out if in the next few days they're still feeling that way. Regardless of your authority, I think this is incredibly important, because as a 1-3 profile, you should be able to, say something without it being like taken so, not taken and then amplified, right? We don't want to amplify that 1-3's energy, and we want to be able to. I also think if you are friends or you're in a relationship with someone with a 1-3, you have to be very self-empowered and be able to take care of yourself. They are not here to take care of the other person. They are here to be on a self-discovery journey. If you want to be with that person, want to be friends with that person, it is all about going down that journey with them and loving yourselves separately before coming together. I think that is a very important aspect as well, because they are very independent people and deserve to be independent people. We are all independent people, but I noticed in the 1-3, because it is the only one in the lower trigram, and it's all about self-discovery. So if they get off that, if they start focusing way more on the other, I mean more projectors, I can see how 1-3 projectors could go there, focus so much on the other, that they start to lose sight of all that growth that they've done to begin with and to get to that point to begin with. So it's all about building the foundation for yourself. It's all about investigating in whatever way works for you. And then the line 3 is all about allowing yourself to go out there and navigate how that works for you and navigate those mistakes. Figure out what works, what feels good, what feels right, and what doesn't. This stuff should drive you. The people that are around you as a 1-3 should make you light up inside. They should make you feel like you can be yourself, because it's all about just being yourself. If you can't be yourself in front of someone, they're probably not the right friend or relationship for you if you have this profile, because it is all about being able to make mistakes, laugh at yourself, be who you are, grow as a person, and grow with the people around you. I think if you can do that, you can have a pretty amazing life as a 1-3 profile. I've watched my 1-3 best friend Peyton as a generator do this. I've watched a projector do this, and I've watched a manifesting generator do this. So I do think regardless of your type or authority, the 1-3 profile does tend to have the same kind of ways of navigating things. I think if you are a 1-3 projector, you tend to maybe talk more out loud about things, or maybe need a little bit more of an explanation for why things are happening. That's the only thing I think I notice in a difference between like a projector or a generator would be my projector friend tends to want to talk things out fully before explaining what he's getting to, whereas my friend Peyton tends to just kind of get to that conclusion and then maybe explain why after. But it's beautiful because I'm able to see their processes both separately and different, but they are so much alike at the same time. So yeah, 1-3 profiles are really amazing, and don't ever take for granted the importance of being yourself as a 1-3 profile, because it's beautiful to be around and it's beautiful to be a part of. And I'm so grateful for the 1-3s I have in my life. Bye guys.